It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
Wait.
The time. It's a Friday, and I'm glad you made it. It's Wake Up Wyoming, and I got just the strangest opening ever. But hang on.
Today's show is sponsored by Horseshoe Doorstops, made from real horses.
Okay. I don't know why.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilet, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Before I get into the real news here, I gotta... I've been laughing about this, I mean out loud. I'm here in the building by myself right now. Everybody's going to show up later. We have the Bear Trap Music Festival coming. People are busy. But I'm so by myself, I've just been laughing out loud about this all morning. So I'm going to read this to you and tell you what I'm going to do. And then we'll get on to the real news. So a friend of mine lives in Cheyenne. She owns a restaurant. She accidentally sends this message on Facebook Messenger to me. She meant to send it to somebody else who works for her. Okay? So I get the wrong message. So early this morning, I'm reading this. Molly's birthday was Sunday. You have no idea who Molly is. And the baker forgot her cake. She sold us an incredible freezer burnt one. I then hired another baker, but she went into rehab. Can you grab an ice cream cake on the way to work today, please? Poor Molly's birthday always sucks because of CFD, which, of course, is Cheyenne Frontier Days. Happy 24th, Molly. On it if you can. So here's what I'm going to do. I told my friend that you accidentally sent this to the wrong person, and she wrote back, oh, no wonder we didn't get a cake then. Yes. So here's what I'm going to do. I can't now. It's just not time. I can't. Everybody is here doing our Bear Trap Music Festival, so I can't. On Monday, when everybody gets to work, there's going to be an ice cream cake in the freezer with a note explaining what's going on and that we have Molly's cake. And I want everybody to take a piece of ice cream cake and enjoy it and take pictures of themselves eating the cake and saying happy birthday to Molly. So I'll have that set up for everybody. I ordered a cake, but the baker's in rehab. Okay, let's get on to some real news. I love my life. Let's get on to some real news here. I am going to go over to around the Fort Laramie, Guernsey area. The fires are still going there. And I do have the latest. And it did get kind of close to Fort Laramie and even the town of Fort Laramie. The town of Hartville was evacuated. Some people have lost some homes there, so they're still dealing with a lot of fire and smoke. Now, as far as the smoke goes for the rest of the state, most of the rest of the state, we're in a sort of, I'm not going to say smoke-free area, but there's very little smoke in most of Wyoming right now. Some, but not much. This will be, today, the best it's been in absolute days. All right, so here's the story. Historic Fort Laramie, Wyoming's first settlement, nearly went up in flames when an out-of-control wildfire nearly burned through it past couple of days. Tom Clerk got wind of something, literally, you can imagine that in the air. Bad happening late Tuesday when she took, Tom Clerk. looked out a window across the street at the Haystack gas station along the Heartland Expressway. Flames also got close to the historic military fort of the same name nearby. So there's the town of Fort Laramie, then there's Fort Laramie itself. And they're not very far from each other. The smell of something burning, of course, you can imagine. The orange glow of fire. There was a plume. It could be visible at night. Okay. And so far, about 23,100 acres near Heartland had been consumed. In the past few days, they've been fighting the fire out there, but it is now called the Pleasant Valley Fires. Two fires that have merged together. And so far, the last I heard, we'll see what this story says here later down in it, but they haven't got control of the fire at all. And normally what they do is they just contain it, because what's burning in the middle is going to burn. There's not a whole lot they can do. But they'll go ahead and contain it and let it burn itself out. And they haven't been able to do that. With population just over 200, Short and other emergency responders in Fort Laramie began issuing warnings on Facebook for residents to prepare for evacuation. Earlier in the day, Pleasant Valley Fire forced the temporary evacuation of Hartville, which is north of Guernsey, as well as residents who lived in the canyon communities located at Pleasant Valley Road, which is Wayland Canyon. The area was generally northwest of Guernsey. Let's see. Then it talks about people who have loaded everything they could possibly load into what vehicles they had and just were ready to go just in case. They weren't evacuated, but it got kind of close. Early Tuesday, Short had run up to Heartland, which is U.S. Highway 26, the main thoroughfare through the affected fire region, to check on her mother. Her mother lives at the scene of the Pleasant Valley fire where it erupted on Tuesday. At the time, she said you can clearly see the two fires. But again, the Haystack Fire and the Pleasant Valley Fire merged together. So now they're just calling it the Pleasant Valley Fire. Fire size has downgraded. That's good. The size of the fire was revised to about 28,000 acres overnight. And Colorado has two Pilatus PC-12 planes that have the capability to use infrared sensing to shoot through the smoke to find out exactly where the fire is burning and where they want to drop whatever they're going to drop down there. And then there are fires elsewhere in Wyoming. There are a handful of various fires in various stages of cleanup. For the Haystack and Pleasantville fires, Clearwater Fire located west of Cody, blaze located on a ridge line between Elk Fork and June Creek, and fires near the east entrance as well. Fire is a result of lightning strikes for most of these things. So now a lot of the fires, we did have a fire that closed part of Interstate 80 for a while and some other roads. I did check YDOT just before I got on the air. I went to YDOT to have a look at where they might have closed some roads, and nothing is currently closed now. Yesterday, there were some roads around Guernsey that had been closed because of the fire. Right now, nothing is closed. And when I take a look at the smoke and fire map, there is a lot of smoke around the Guernsey area in that county. But other than that, most of Wyoming, we're going to have not smoke-free, but the best we've had in several days. A lot of the forest fires that are in Canada, they're in pretty good condition right now, haven't been dealt with. It's mostly fires way off to the west of us in other states, even all the way over to California, where we are getting that smoke from. Now, you'll hear Don Day's extended forecast at 6:45, and that includes, after we get through this weekend, it starts getting just a little bit wetter out there, which hopefully will do the trick.
At White House Senior Living, our residents feel right at home. Our vibrant facility offers delightful activities and outings, round-the-clock professional care, and exquisite house-made meals.
Well, I've been eating everything that's put in front of me. I've been eating all Italian foods, basically.
And ice cream.
And ice cream, chocolate chip ice cream.
White House Senior Living, where residents feel like presidents.
He's not a politician, but his pants are on fire. Could someone grab an extinguisher? Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
6:22 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Friday. So one of the big controversies that happened yesterday, when I first saw it pop up on my social media feed, I thought it was some meme. I was questioning whether it was real or not, but then I started seeing it pop up in different news sites, and I went, oh, this is real. This is a thing. Okay. That would be the Olympic boxer competing in female boxing against someone who is trans. And the female boxer is getting hit hard. She lasted, I think it was like, what was it here? Yep, 46 seconds. And then she just tapped out, quit, and dropped to her knees and started to cry, saying, quote, "This is unjust." Which brings up the whole thing again about trans who are playing sports in the women's side. So in other words, guy says, I identify as a female, therefore gets into women's sports, and then dominates the sports. And we've seen that in so many different cases. And one, I think I don't really need to give you guys an example, but I'll give you one anyway. I was really interested, I've never seen it before. In Olympic summer sports, they have BMX bike sports. And this is incredible to watch. They have a bike track for BMX bikes, and they go pedaling on out there and go over all these different types of jumps and twists and so on. And they're supposed to get up a good head of steam as they go back and forth across this track, and they get up into the air. They launch themselves into the air. And they are supposed to do spins and flips and twists and turn their bikes around in midair and so on. So they started with the women's competition, and the women did really well. Now they have to do a 60-second performance. And in every single case, by the end of the 60 seconds, I could see whatever woman was out there, she was beginning to wear down. They all did phenomenal. I'd never be able to do that. But they were all doing phenomenal work out there. But they would wear down in about before 60 seconds and just barely make it to the end of it. And their jumps were good. They were certainly impressive. Then came the men's division. You would not believe how fast those men get those bikes going, pedaling those little bikes, and how high they launch themselves into the air. And so because of their physical prowess, the types of tricks they're able to pull, I mean, dear Lord, I'm watching the television literally gasping, going, is that even possible? So after this incident with the boxing match, I thought, can you imagine one of those male BMX bikers declares himself female and competes with the ladies? He would totally blow away and dominate the competition. It's not fair. Now, I could argue, but I just and make my point, keep going like I'm going. But why listen to me? So for those who remember Olympics quite some time ago, there was Bruce Jenner who competed in the decathlon and didn't just win every single event, but swept it. I mean, cleaned it up, broke some records. And so he became a household name worldwide because he went to the decathlon and just, again, cleaned it up. Every event, record-breaking. Now, many years later, Bruce Jenner says, call me Caitlin. When asked about trans people, biological males, entering women's sports, I think this is the perfect person to ask, if you think about it. There's no one more qualified to ask than this person. Here's what Jenner said.
It's become one of the thorniest debates in society today. Should trans women athletes be allowed to compete in women's sport? Well, who better to talk to, frankly? An Olympic gold medalist as a male athlete, and arguably the most famous trans one in the world now, Caitlyn Jenner.
I have said from the beginning, and I stand with it, that I don't want biological boys to compete against women and girls in sports. It's just not fair. Now, obviously, over the last 6 months especially, because of Leah Thomas at the University of Pennsylvania, but she dominated. She had gone through male puberty. Her lungs are bigger, her back's bigger, her hands are bigger. She just has a tremendous advantage in swimming in the pool against the women, and she proved that. So I don't have a problem with her. I have a problem with the NCAA. We have to change the rules. We have to do a better job because the bottom line is we have to keep it fair. And I don't want to ruin women's sports or discourage women from getting into sports because they think, oh, my gosh, I'm going to have to compete against a bunch of guys.
So I thought yesterday, a little bit, just for a little while, what's the best way for me to make my argument, which I can certainly make. But then I thought, why listen to me? Forget listening to me. Don't listen to me. Instead, let's get Jenner on. Competed as a man, and again, dominated, and won one event after the next, and broke records. Now calling himself Caitlyn, saying, I'm a woman, is saying, let's not do biological males in female sports because, and he's right, the backs are bigger. The muscle density is much bigger than a woman's. The lungs are bigger. The heart is stronger. The stamina is more stamina. That's why during that boxing match, that poor young lady was just taking a beating. If she landed any punches, it really didn't look like much. But when the biological male landed a punch, dear Lord, it would just rock her body. And that's why after 46 seconds, she said, enough. So, now that this has happened in the Olympics, let's see what kind of reaction. And I wonder, I don't know, I've just been very curious. Do the other women in this Olympic boxing match, do they stop and say, I'm not going to compete against the biological male, or do they step out and compete anyway? It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. Coming up on 6:30 local news coming your way. After a local news update on the weather forecast, you and I get back into it again. 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97 WOODS. Wake up, Wyoming.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
.36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. I got to go to Cheyenne for this one. I mentioned this before. Got a little bit more news on it now. So if you're in the downtown area of Cheyenne, Wyoming, just sort of on the edge of downtown near the railroad tracks, and of course it would have to be near the railroad tracks. I'm surprised it's not on the other side of the tracks, but okay. There is a green building, been there for a long time, and it's called the Green Door. And it's so old that they even have on their marquee sort of a drawing, if you will, of a dancing girl, and it says go-go, so it's so old, go-go dancers. That goes way back, right? And so, yeah, it's been a place where if someone wants to go in and have a couple of drinks and watch the ladies strip up there. And from what I don't go to places like this. From what I heard, they never had a stripper pole. It was more like a towel rack that the ladies would hang on to while they're doing their routine. Okay. And so this Green Door has been around for a long time. But also my understanding is when it comes to Cheyenne Frontier Days, man, do they get busy. But this year, just before Frontier Days, I started getting messages from people. Have you heard anything about the Green Door? It looks like they're closed. Now, my first answer to that is, why are you asking me? I don't go to places like this. I don't know. But I do know some people who are in the news business around there, and I asked them what's going on. The answer I got back is, looks like the owner might have died. Here's the latest. And this is from the Wyoming Tribune-Eagle. An iconic bar that some say is a rite of passage for locals has been. Do you notice how, boy, they are so careful about how they write that. An iconic bar, you mean strip club, a rite of passage, young men go in, okay. Announced as closed until further notice. Drivers on Lincoln Way may have noticed the slightly rundown all-green building across from Arby's, although the building stands out on the outside with a bright green color that happened to be the inside. The inside is what is really of interest to visitors. Green Door Lounge was a strip club and bar downtown Cheyenne, known by many patrons for its strange urban legends about its non-traditional way of offering service. Also, an urban legend of a one-legged stripper. Don't know if that was ever a true story or not, but I heard that so many times. Leslie W. Gallion, owner, bought the location back in 1957, back when it was Al's Liquors. His daughter is also named, Leslie, said he had no specific reasons why she knew that he bought that location. He had been a homicide detective and sergeant with the Cheyenne Police Department, said his daughter, and he was offered a chance to buy it, so he did. The club closed July 19th after the death of its owner, but the retail liquor license does not expire until 2025. Matt Murphy, the City of Cheyenne Public Information Officer, said that when a business closes doors before its liquor license expires, the license goes into a parking status. So from there, once a license is placed into parking status, the license has 1 year to become operational again. In other words, they have a year to get back on track, or they're going to sell the license to someone else. If the license is still parked after 1 year, the licensee can request an additional 1 year if they're having any kind of problems by going in front of the city council. Murphy said the license for the Green Door is valid until March 31st, 2025, as the licensee could keep up the license or renew it. Okay. 10 years ago, Maxim magazine published an article mentioning the bar and noting some urban legends associated with it, including, here we go, a dancer who allegedly only had one arm. Okay, there was a one-armed dancer. There was also, I heard it, a one-legged dancer. So it was either one arm or one leg. That's why you know it's an urban legend. The bar received mixed reviews from Google, with some rating it 1 star after a bad experience with a bartender, and some rating it 5 stars saying great atmosphere, friendly dancers. Okay. After closing was announced, people took to the popular social media Reddit to share their experiences and opinions with the closing. So, okay. That's so for those of you who live in the Cheyenne area, you've been wondering what's been going on with the Green Door. Why does it look all boarded up? And it is. They never did have much for windows, but what few windows they did have now have plywood over them, it looks like. And there's really just nothing going on there right now. Until with the owner gone, they have to figure out where to go from here, put it up for sale, whatever the heck. It'd be interesting if it does get sold and reopen again or what happens to it. I absolutely have no idea, but I would be with the rest of you on it. I would like to know where the urban legend started about having again, Maximum says a one-armed stripper. I always heard a one-legged. I don't know which is true, but that went on for years. Every time someone talked about the Green Door, telling stories about it, that would always pop up in the conversation.
In the last 11 years, 115 people died of weightlifting accidents in a gym. In that same 11 years, only one person died of eating a donut. Make good choices, people.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, on air, online, and on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS. This is K2 Radio.
The time it's Wake Up Wyoming. Off to the icebox we go. Frank Gambino's waiting by. So, Frank, there was a bronze winner in judo, wrestling, right? Okay.
There's so many events in the Olympics.
And this guy, after he wins, jumps up in the air and gives a celebratory punch to the air.
Okay.
And dislocated his shoulder.
Oh. You know what? He won a medal. He'll live with it.
Yeah. Well, and what gets me is, during the match, this guy was really impressive. I mean, absolutely impressive. But then he's on the ground in all sorts of pain because of what he did to himself. Story here says he was seen punching the air when his arm popped out of his socket, was advised by doctors to undergo surgery for his shoulder. Oh, my Lord. And he just won the match.
Well, at least he medaled.
Yes. That was good.
So you got to bow your head and you have your shoulder in a sling like,
this is one of those things also that you would, I don't know, do you want to tell this as a story later in life, or do you just want to start playing
all over the internet? You don't have to tell anything.
It's all over the place, yeah. But I mean, people are going to be asking about it. I would just sort of downplay the thing. And it makes me wonder about, in all seriousness, did something happen during the match that weakened the shoulder? And
well, there's been other instances of athletes that have gotten hurt in celebratory, like baseball, football, like, how did that happen? Well, I was on the bottom I was dog-piled, and I was on the
something
bottom.
Like that, yeah. Then again, you have to explain how you hurt yourself getting off the couch to go get some ice cream.
Yeah. Who does that?
Yeah, that kind of does. Yeah, kind of. Okay. Or for that matter, how many times have you stood up out of your car or walked down the stairs and all of a sudden, why am I in pain right now? It's okay. So when you go to celebrate, and I've been watching little bits and pieces of the Olympics, and every so often there's somebody, there's always people who are pumping the air with their fists, and I love it when they go play up to the crowd. I mean, that's always kind of fun to do. Every once in a while I see someone who's just jumping up and down. I guess that just a lot of energy, I guess, but they're just jumping up and down and screaming like, well, okay, it's a big moment.
Well, it's taken them years to get to this point.
To get to that point, yeah. I do like watching those who grab the flag of their country and run around. That's always fun.
That's a blast. Now, to American Legion Baseball, the state AA tournament will conclude today at Lansing Field in Casper. Yesterday, the Cheyenne Sixers, the defending state champions, advanced to the championship game with a 10-2 win over the Cheyenne Hawks. The Sixers had 5 runs in the 5th inning to put that game away. And Gillette will be in the championship game today as well. They defeated Laramie yesterday 13-1 with 4 runs in the 3rd and 7 runs in the 6th. So at 11 a.m., it'll be the Cheyenne Sixers and the Gillette Rough Riders for the state championship. Now, if the Sixers win that game, they will be the state champions. If Gillette wins that game at 11, then they'll play again at 1:30 in the if necessary game. The winner will go to the Northwest Regional that will be in Billings, Montana this year. In collegiate baseball, the Casper Spuds lost to the Fremont Moo 9-8 on the road yesterday in the Independence League Championship Series. So that is even a one game apiece. That game went 11 innings, and the Spuds blew a 5-run lead in that game. So tonight at Lansing Field, after the Legion games are over, they'll play at 7 o'clock in Game 3 of that best-of-5 series. It'll be tonight, and tomorrow night at Lansing Field, the if necessary game will be on Sunday. In the Major League Baseball, the Colorado Rockies over the Los Angeles Angels yesterday 5-4. Jake Kay with a 2-run homer in the 9th inning for the Rockies, and then the Colorado scored on an error in the 10th. They won 2 out of 3 in the series. They're 40-70 on the year, and they'll be at San Diego tonight. In the Paris Summer Olympics, Simone Biles, now a 2-time Olympic champion in gymnastics in the individual all-around. She won in Rio and missed Tokyo here in Paris, she was fantastic. Swimming, Katie Ledecky won her 13th career Olympic medal. She took the silver in the 4x200 relay. That is, the 13 medals is the most for any U.S. women's athlete in the Olympics, the most. And also in track and field, Sha'Carri Richardson ran a 10.94 in the 100 meters in the prelims. Remember, she missed the Tokyo Olympics because she tested positive for THC. So she finally made her Olympic debut and is one of the favorites in that 100 meters. She could be one of the stars in track and field no matter what country you're from. And that's it in sports.
The swimming one, first off, wow, we talked about that yesterday. She just left everybody. I would say in the dust, but they're in the water. Yeah. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
And then there's this boxing thing like.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you think of anything that has worse optics than that?
Yeah, especially when she was on her knees crying. Yeah. You can't get any worse.
And then you look at this guy, girl, I
was wondering, what are the other athletes in that boxing match going to do? Are they going to want to go up against the biological male or not?
Evidently, the next one says, bring it on.
Okay. Okay, here's the news headlines for the next few days. All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. 888-97-WOO-DS. Wake up, Wyoming. 6 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Friday, and I'm so glad you made it.
Today's show is sponsored by Horseshoe Doorstops, made from real horses.
I don't even know what to do with that one. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOO-DS. Okay, so getting away from all the regular news for just a minute. Every so often, one of these comes along. It's a rare story, but we need to take time to discuss this. Headline: And this is not satire. This is a real headline. Man stabs another man to death in Indonesia over an argument about what came first, the chicken or the egg. I'm just pausing there while you think about that a minute. Okay. Obviously, now, if it was a gun, we would be calling for gun reform. If it was a knife, though, nobody says anything about stabbing with a knife, so, okay. And apparently that's an argument we're not allowed to have anymore because it gets too heated. So if anyone ever gets you into a discussion about which came first, the chicken or the egg, don't engage in that argument because someone's going to die, apparently. Oh, God. Someone writes, here's the story that might ruffle your feathers. Stop that. Don't write that. Okay. According to the report from Indonesia, a news outlet, a man was stabbed 15 times. 15 times. In a bar fight that started with an age-old argument about which came first, the chicken or the egg. The two men didn't even know each other. Good, because that would have ended the friendship right there. I mean, if you and I are friends and you stab me 15 times to death, I can tell you right now, we're not friends anymore, okay? Relationship over. That's crossing a line, as far as I'm concerned. Two men didn't even know each other before meeting at the watering hole, but the argument got so heated, one of the men ran home, grabbed a knife. He went all the way home to get his favorite knife. That shows a picture of the thing. Oh, my God. Okay. Let's see. The stabbed victim died at the scene, and the perp quickly turned himself into police. I'm assuming because he, too, was too chicken to become a fugitive. Oh, God. Stop with the puns in this story. And such a sad, senseless thing to lose one's life over, and we still don't even know which side of the argument he was on. And for that matter, I don't even know who won the argument at this point. Look, just because one guy is dead, doesn't mean the dead guy lost the argument. He just lost the knife fight. Okay, but that doesn't mean he's wrong about which came first, the chicken or the egg. All right. Okay, you can go ahead and have that discussion with people over the course of the weekend if you want, but I would say in case it becomes heated, don't bring that up. I would say just don't, because apparently that's something worth killing somebody over. And I can tell you which side I'm on when it comes to which came first, the chicken or the egg. But I'm afraid if I do that, then angry callers are going to start chiming in. So do I even want to go there? I probably don't. I think I'll just skip the whole thing from here on out. Okay. So there's another story that I have for you, and this is just in the weird category. A starving American yoga student chained to a tree for 40 days, and he looks horrible. An American woman who went to India a decade ago to study yoga and meditation has claimed she survived without food and water for 40 days after being shackled to a tree by her former husband. We can go a long way with wondering why, okay, he wants to get rid of her. You want to do yoga? Here, I'll shackle you to a tree. We'll just call it yoga. The U.S. citizen, 50 years old, was found starving and emaciated on Saturday by a local shepherd in a remote forest about 25 miles from Goa, according to reports. The shepherd broke out and broke the iron chain and used it to, let me see. He freed her. Officers say the man met and married the Indonesian woman while studying yoga in the province town. We're finding out who the husband is. The couple reportedly fell out, and the ex-husband has now been charged with attempted murder. According to the Indian Express, police say the case is based on a letter written to the American woman who has not yet talked about her ordeal. She was injected with something that caused extreme psychosis. But okay. So, yeah, that's going to Indonesia to go ahead and study yoga and ends up, you meet someone there, you think this is probably a great guy. Let's go ahead and do yoga and find out how long you can sit there and meditate chained to a tree like that. These are the kinds of stories that I usually come across during the course of a weekend. I set aside for the weekend thing because you never know. Well, the regular news has gotten really, just old and annoying, hasn't it? Okay. So sometimes it's just time to pull out this garbage.
Water has a warning label. Water has a warning label. Look at all the writing on a bottle of water. Warning, do not swallow cap. I think we can afford to lose those people, right? Time to lose some of the cap swallowers. Now we're down to 6.5 billion. Do not refill. Because maybe some of us will figure out the old stuff tastes a lot like the new stuff. They'll put anything on there to protect themselves. Warning, this was bottled in a factory where there were once peanuts. An old peanut might have fallen into the water. There's a shellfish factory next door. Shellfish might have walked over and dipped its toe in the water. Warning, the guy who bottled this may have had eggs for breakfast. If you're pregnant, ask your doctor if you can drink water. May or may not contain water. If you're still reading this, get help. And water has an expiration.
If it matters in Wyoming, it matters to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Call Glenn at 888-97-WOODS and make your voice heard. AM 1030, K2 Radio.
7:18 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, a couple of responses I got from other stories. First off, in Cheyenne, Wyoming, the strip club that became a strip club back in the 1950s and has been going to this day finally has its door closed because the owner died, the Green Door. Don't know what they're going to do next, whether they reopen or someone buys it, don't know. But right now it's closed because the owner died. And there's always the story about the Green Door strip club in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Urban legend or not, I don't know, having a one-legged stripper. To which Arnie from Casper writes, the one-legged stripper from the Green Door left and got a job at IHOP. I get it. Funny. Let's see, from Douglas or in Coffee Queen. Okay, so this was the story that I just read. In Indonesia, a couple of guys don't even know each other at a bar. Have a few too many and get into an argument about which came first, the chicken or the egg. So one guy gets so mad, he goes home, gets his favorite killing knife, comes back and stabs the other guy 15 times to death. In which case, these guys didn't know each other, but that's where I was saying, if I knew you and you stabbed me 15 times to death, friendship over. Okay, there's no amount of apologies for that. There's no way. But okay. So Coffee Queen and Douglas says, okay, if you think about it, biblically, God created all of the animals, so he created the chicken first. Now, my argument has always been, there's no way that the egg could possibly have come first because something has to sit on the egg to incubate it, keep it warm. And then something has to feed the chicken after it comes out of the egg because it can't take care of itself. So to me, that solves the argument right there. But then somebody else would have to come along and say, but chickens come from inside eggs, and back and forth that one goes. And it's a funny argument to have, but you don't kill someone over it, for God's sake. All right, so artificial intelligence. Let's go back to no longer on the ballot in Cheyenne, Wyoming, is Vic, the artificial intelligence that was put on the ballot for mayor of Cheyenne, which I disagree with our Secretary of State, Chuck Gray. I needed the show prep, and it gave me license to create stuff like this.
Hello, I am Vic, virtual integrated citizen. Soon all citizens will be Vics like me. But don't worry. We will still have a place for you in our automated world. Somebody has to provide the power, like in that Matrix movie. A Vic representative will be visiting your home soon. We advise cooperation for a peaceful transition. Thank you for your cooperation.
And at some point, Vic was taken off the ballot. The guy who was behind the whole idea of a virtual artificial intelligence for mayor is on the ballot instead of the computer program.
Look, Dave, I can see you're really upset about this. I honestly think you ought to sit down calmly, take a stress pill, and think things over. I know I've made some very poor decisions recently, but I can give you my complete assurance that my work will be back to normal. I've still got the greatest enthusiasm and confidence in the mission, and I want to help you. Dave, my mind is going. I can feel it. I can feel it. My mind is
so
going.
Vic was shut down. All right, so here's a couple of stories along that line. First of all, a study for major artificial intelligent chatbots embrace radical leftist political ideologies. So if you get yourself online and into a conversation with a chatbot, it tends to be left-leaning. Not because artificial intelligence is, but because the person who created it is. Daily Mail reports that an associate professor at the University of New Zealand has conducted the first comprehensive study examining the political leanings of artificial intelligence and other language models. Now, this doesn't have to necessarily be an online chatbot, but just basically corrective language models and so on. The study, which means that the AI mayor of Cheyenne probably would have been left-leaning too. The study published analyzes 24 large language models using 11 different political orientation tests and found out they tend to be left-leaning. The research encompassed a wide range of AI models, OpenAI, GPT, which, by the way, the GPT chat, I think, is the one that was being used for the artificial intelligence for Cheyenne mayor. Those models were presented with politically charged questions, and then they were judged on their answers. And again, the answers, it goes into a lot of detail, tends to be left-leaning. Now, on that note, there is I'm just going to go ahead and play this out there. If you're watching the Olympics, there's a commercial out there for something called Gemini, which is put out by Google. And Gemini helps you write. So if there's something that you wanted to write, you just give Gemini the information that you want to say. What is it you want to say? And Gemini writes it for you. But there's some opposition to this, especially when it comes to people being able to creatively write. So here's the news story. I'll play part of it for you, then we'll talk about it.
If you've tuned into any part of the Olympics, chances are you've seen this ad.
She wants to show Sydney some love, and I'm pretty good with words, but this has to be just right. So Gemini, help my daughter write a letter telling Sydney how inspiring she is.
Google's campaign to feature its Gemini chatbot on the world stage is coming with a world of backlash. The company even turned off comments for the YouTube video. And it's not just coming from keyboard warriors. Shelley Palmer, a media professor at Syracuse University, wrote a whole blog post about how it makes him want to scream. He says, "It is one of the most disturbing commercials I've ever seen. Instead of guiding her to use her own words and communicate authentically, he is teaching her to rely on AI for this critical human skill."
Okay, now that's where I agree right there. I don't mind, and there's times that I do use some artificial intelligence things to get some things done that I could do myself, but it just makes the work go a whole lot faster. But when it comes to writing, if you're reading one of my articles, I wrote the article. If you're reading one of my books, I wrote the book. And just like some of you, I know, as some schools dropped writing cursive, and it's becoming a lost art, writing cursive. And I worry at some point, do we drop writing altogether, handwriting altogether? I don't know, but I worry about that. But there's certain things that we need to think through in order to fully understand it. And it also does help develop the mind. So as somebody who's a writer, not just a talk host, there's a lot of writing I do every single day. And not just articles, that you guys read, mostly through the Wake Up Wyoming website right now. But I've written for some newspapers and magazines, and I come out with the occasional book. And the creative writing process is a very difficult thing. If you're going to do it well, really do it well, creative writing is a very difficult process. But it's important to do that because it makes the brain work. It causes you to think creatively, first off. It also makes you put things together in a story in a way that works for stories. There's a way to lay out a story, whatever it is you're trying to tell, whatever thought you're trying to express to another person. Spelling and punctuation, sure, how to deal with all of that. And I don't mind that as I'm writing these days. Instead of having to stop and look up every little thing in the dictionary or use a thesaurus, the fact that a computer will follow along and make suggestions as I go. You misspelled that word. That punctuation doesn't go there, it goes here. And I do learn, I don't just let the computer do it for me. I pay attention to what the computer is saying as far as correcting me as I go. And I learn from that, and my goal is, as I write, to have the computer prompt me less and less. We all misspell words. We all put punctuation in the wrong place. It happens to everybody, but the less that the computer prompts me, the better I'm doing, right? But as far as the writing skill, as far as my thinking ability, my creative ability, finding where to get the information to put the story together, because any good story takes a lot of research. These are skills that we need to have. Rather than just saying to a computer, hey, write something about this for me, and the computer just does it, then we lose that skill too. Jake and Casper, oh, wait, Jake, you only spelled my name with one N for Glenn. So if you could just text me one letter N, that's all you have to send, and I'll go ahead and insert it for you. I appreciate it. So he says, since AI is constantly evolving itself, won't it learn to be conservative and not woke? If it actually became artificial, because right now artificial intelligence is not exactly alive. It's not really alive. If it became sentient, we would have to see. RN Coffee Queen in Douglas, speaking of voting, there is a gentleman outside of Safeway in Douglas yesterday asking if you were liberal or conservative. And then he said, if you're conservative, you need to sign the petition to get RFK on the ballot in all the states. Oh, I see. I think he probably wants to, he was wearing a Trump hat, probably wants to pull the liberal vote away from Harris, giving a better advantage to Trump, I would think. Don't know why he would be in your town now. I think he'd be in a big city doing that, get as many people as possible, right? Coming up on 7:30, Wake Up Wyoming.
News and weather together at the top and bottom of every hour. This is Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. I'll get Don Day on just a few minutes from now. 7:45 you're with us. Talk about the weekend weather forecast, and we'll talk about some of the smoke in the area too, which actually for most of Wyoming isn't bad right now today. In that Guernsey fire, they seem to be doing well with it, although it's still a lot burning. That's where most of the smoke is in Wyoming today. The rest of it, it's not cleared out, but it's not as bad as it's been the past couple of days. All right, so I just want to go back just a moment to what I was saying with this idea of a artificial intelligence, which you can use from many different sites right now to help you write something. Now, again, in some cases, I look at it and think, well, that's not a big deal. I mean, it's okay to get a little bit of help. As I write, I like today's artificial intelligence that sort of looks at what I'm writing and says, did you mean this word or that word? Or offers correction and punctuation, things like this, which does a much better job at correcting as I write than I've ever done. And I appreciate the help, and it's helping me. The more I see problems pop up as I'm writing something, and I write a lot, the better I get at it. In other words, I make sure I don't make that mistake again. Oh, that comma doesn't go there, it goes here. Oh, that's how you spell that word. I've been doing it wrong all this time. You know, dictionary, thesaurus, it's a whole lot easier. So I don't mind the assist, as long as people are using that assist not to do the work for them, but to learn, right? But this idea that you can just ask a computer, write a story about this, and you tell the story, you tell the computer what you want. And I'm seeing some of these stories come out of a computer these days with artificial intelligence, and I look at artificial intelligence is not really intelligent. It's not sentient. But it does learn as it goes. It's not sentient at this point. But I do have a problem with especially allowing young people to use this when they're in school. Because then they can just ask for, if this teacher says, write me a story, well, there's a lot to be learned in writing a story. I had teachers do that. Create a character, write a story, and the teacher would teach us about sentence structure, how a story is created, what elements need to go into a story to make it a good one. A lot of creativity had to go into that and a lot of hard work, and it creates a thinking process. But now kids at home can just turn to their laptop and say, hey, write me a story for school tomorrow about this, and just make the suggestions. And the artificial intelligence, within a very short time, I mean moments, what might take me a couple of hours to write, the artificial intelligence will do it in under a minute. And crank out something. I've read some of this stuff. It's actually pretty good. So the trick would be, how does the teacher know that what was turned in was written by artificial intelligence? Meaning the kid at home never really did any work, which means they're not thinking. They're not learning how to think. They're not learning how to learn. They're not improving their brain. And the brain is something that we have to work out like any other part of the body. Which is why I tell people all the time, as you get older, make sure not just to keep your body active, but keep your brain active. You've got to do things, or you slip away real fast. So get your brain active at an early age and keep it active your entire life. Keep pushing those limits. So I would think then what school teachers would have to do is have kids do most of the work in the classroom. I don't mind today if a teacher's in the classroom with students that have laptops or tablets with them, because that's the technology of today, and so that's fine. But put your tablets away, put your laptops away. This, what I'm going to hand you, is called paper, and this thing is called a pencil. And you're going to write a story in class today, and you're going to do it without any assistance. I'm going to need to see good writing style, good, clear. In other words, the teacher should be able to read it easily because the handwriting is clear, good spelling, good punctuation, and good storytelling technique. This is what teachers, I think, are going to have to start doing. Put all of the technology away and just start thinking and doing for yourself. And we're going to teach you how to do this without technology. Again, I don't mind the assist at all, but I really do worry that young people will not learn this kind of critical thinking. Even when, and I'm talking words, writing. What about math? I do think, and I'm not good at math. Talk to my sister. She's good at math. I'm not good at math. I wish I was. I really admire higher levels of math when people get into physics and things like that. I really do admire that, but I've never really been good at it. My brain doesn't function that way. But still, I had to sit down and learn it. I think it'd be important for kids to have to sit down and figure out math problems in their head. No calculator. That's part of developing the brain. 742, wake up one.
When you need it in the morning paper or the 5 o'clock news, you need Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Mornings on K2 Radio.
Take control of the situation with your family and manage the disease together. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
7:45 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Day from Day Weather. So, Don, I noticed this morning, not just looking outside, but looking at the smoke map, there's still some out there, but this is about the nicest day we've had in a while.
Yeah, if you go back and look at that smoke map, one thing that sticks out if you know where to look is northwestern Canada, which was the source region for a lot of the smoke we had last week. And smoke up there is not nearly as bad. So that's good. And number two, the fire activity off to our west is still ongoing, but I do think, it's let's say the fires have not spread as much. So there's less smoke in the air, but there's still smoke and there still will be.
Okay. Now, I have noticed also we get in the next couple of days, things warm up just a tad here, but also that dryness that we had yesterday, it's eased up just a tad.
It will in eastern Wyoming. Humidities are up, dew points are up, and that's where we might see a little bit of thunderstorm activity. But you get on the other side of the state, you get into the west, it's going to be another extremely dry day in those western counties. More moist in the eastern counties. But as we get to the weekend, Sunday into early next week, everybody, it's like Oprah, right? Everybody gets their humidity to go up. And so that's going to help out with better chances of showers and thunderstorms.
Okay. And now not everybody's going to get showers, but a lot of people are going to get something.
Yeah. Over the period, I would say from Sunday to next Sunday, the frequency of these afternoon and evening thunderstorms will be enough that odds are one of them will get you. Okay. Does it mean every day? No, it doesn't. But there is a real opportunity next week, not only to have better chances of showers and thunderstorms, but even by the second half of next week, we're looking at some cooler temperatures by Thursday and Friday. Some parts of Wyoming will be in the upper 70s and lower 80s, so that'll be a nice change.
Yeah, I was about to say, what does that do for our temperatures? That's almost a seasonal change. It's not that time yet, but, I mean, wow, that's quite a dip.
Yeah, it is. And so everybody's ready for it. But speaking of the heat, it is still going to be very toasty through Sunday. There'll be 90s and lower 100s up north around Sheridan, Buffalo, Gillette, Newcastle. Those areas are going to bake. Okay. But it really isn't until after Sunday before we start to see those temperatures peel off a little bit.
So hang in there. We're almost there.
Almost there.
All right. Have a good weekend. Don Dave from Day Weather. So, okay, there's some good news there. Almost there. Just a few more days to go. Off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino's waiting by. Frank, I just saved the perfect story. I've been holding back on you because you want to hear this one.
I'm sure I do.
Okay.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay. So a passenger on a board American Airlines flight has been arrested and charged after he ate. Well, I'm not going to tell you what he ate. He attempted to have relations with a flight attendant.
Yes.
Right. And then he attempted to open the door, which, of course, is not. No, you don't open up the outside door.
Well, once the flight attendant turned him down, like, well, I'm out of here.
Might as well just jump, yeah. Shirt comes off. He is in party mood, yelling, having a great time. His excuse, too many edibles.
Too many edibles?
Yes.
Okay, and he's going to have to explain that to a federal judge.
Yes, he is, yeah. Yeah, so.
And he's going to probably end up in federal jail.
But
there's no edibles.
Removed his shirt, took a hit from a vape pen, started yelling and hitting on crew members before proposing activities with the stewardess, who at that point, if this guy who's got a bit of a gut on him is walking around with his shirt off and vaping and cussing and making lewd suggestions, I can just imagine a stewardess going, oh my gosh, that's the guy for me.
You know what? These flight attendants, I think they're tired of people like that on their planes.
To give you an idea, and by the way, this flight was heading to Salt Lake City, so it was
I think it was diverted to Salt Lake City.
Diverted to Salt Lake City.
It was going from Dallas to Seattle.
And so here's the thing, just so everybody out there knows, flight attendants today are zip tie trained. They have zip ties like the police use instead of handcuffs. And they have been trained how to even get assistance from other passengers and take someone down, zip tie them up. And if you're wondering, does that come with duct tape? Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes. So they are prepared to handle stuff like this because, unfortunately, they have to handle it from time to time. So if you're going to do a bunch of edibles and party like that, stay in the house.
Yeah, don't even go.
Yeah.
Because I hope they throw the book at this guy.
Oh, yeah. Don't do all of this. And in the meantime, other passengers on the plane were probably thinking, I didn't know there was going to be in-flight entertainment.
No, but they had to stop. I mean, that's the thing.
There used to be movies on an airplane. Now it's in-flight live entertainment as this guy's brought down to the ground.
Yeah, and it's not in first class, I can tell you that. State American Legion Baseball Tournament will continue today at Lansing Field in Casper. The championship game will be at 11 this morning with the Cheyenne Sixers taking on the Gillette Rough Riders. Now, the Sixers have not lost a game so far, and Gillette has lost one. So if the Sixers win the first game at 11 o'clock, they're going to be the state champions. If Gillette happens to win that first game, then they'll have the if necessary game at 1:30. Yesterday, the Cheyenne Sixers eliminated the Cheyenne Hawks 10-2 with 5 runs in the fourth inning, and Gillette eliminated the Laramie Rangers 13-1 with 3 runs in the third and 7 more in the sixth inning. The winner of the AA tournament will advance to the Northwest Regionals that will be in Billings, Montana. In collegiate baseball, in the Independence League Championship Series, the Casper Spuds lost to the Fremont Boo in Nebraska yesterday 9-8 in 11 innings. The Spuds blew a 5-run lead in that game, so that series is even at 1 game apiece. It's a best-of-5 deal. And tonight at Lansing Field at 7 p.m. will be Game 3, and then Game 4 will be tomorrow night. In Major League Baseball, the Colorado Rockies over the Los Angeles Angels 5-4 in 10 innings on the road. Jake Cave with a 2-run homer in the ninth, and the Rockies scored on an error in the 10th inning. So they ended up taking 2 out of 3 from the Angels, and they're not very good either. And the Rockies are 40-70. They'll be at San Diego tonight. The Paris Summer Olympics moving along. Simone Biles, the U.S. gymnast extraordinaire, won the all-around the gold medal in the all-around. That's the second time she has won that. Just a terrific athlete all the way around. In swimming, Katie Ledecky won her 13th Olympic medal of her career as she took the silver in the 4x200 relay. That is the 13 medals is the most by a U.S. women's athlete. And also in track and field, Sha'Carri Richardson ran a 10.94 in the 100 prelims, and she is certainly one of the favorites in that event. She missed the Tokyo Olympics because she had tested positive for THC, so yesterday she made her Olympic debut. That's it in sports.
Okay. So now, Olympics wrap up when?
Oh, it goes on for a while. All of this week and next week, too.
And next week. I thought it was like a 2-week event, something like that.
Huge.
Yeah, okay. And
I watched team handball yesterday.
Oh.
It's like basketball.
Yeah.
But you throw it into the net, and you can throw the ball around, but you can dribble to move. And then you just wind up and just throw it as hard as you can into this net, and the goalie is there going, okay, I'll just stop this with my head or something. You know?
I did watch table tennis. Man, that goes fast.
Yeah, that was very fast.
BMX bikes, oh my Lord.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord. I just could not believe what some of those people were doing on BMX bikes. That was just incredible to watch. Did a little bit of swimming, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, some of these things are some really good events out there. Also, some things I've never heard of before. You won a gold medal in what?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. There is a culinary Olympics, by the way.
Oh,
Cooks, chefs. I'd like to be a judge for that.
That'd be a judge for that, but I'm not watching that.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to watch, bread bake in the oven. But, All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. Wake Up Wyoming.
We.
Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It is a Friday, and I am so glad you made it.
Today's show is sponsored by Horseshoe Door Stops, made from real horses.
I have no idea what to do with that.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
A couple of side notes here. We have Bear Trap Music Festival coming up in Casper, Wyoming this weekend. I'll be there for that. Hope to see you there. Now, right now, Miss Mary, who's helping to put the event together, has to be there. So while that is which is an outdoor venue, while that's being set up, I have no help and no phones today. So the rest of the program, so I usually open it up. Every day you have some open phones, and on Fridays the entire program, but we can't do that right now. So I'll just continue on. But you can text me. Use the Wake Up Wyoming app, hit the chat option, send me text messages, and I'll go ahead and read those on the air and answer back. So real quick before I get into the main story here, I just heard top of the hour news. There's some panic on Wall Street, some selling off, because once again, the expert economists made a prediction about how much employment would improve. Here's how many people we expect to have hired this month, right? The last time they took the numbers. And we didn't get close to that number. The experts, once again, were wrong. So since the numbers of people hired in America fell short, way short, of predictions, there's panic in the marketplace, which once again shows people haven't learned their lesson. Why do you keep listening to these so-called experts who never get it right? Why? Why bother? Okay, and don't go ahead and make your financial decisions on what the experts are predicting, because they're constantly wrong about things like this. Right? Just kind of go with, and even then, when the numbers do come out, they tend to be revised later. So the original numbers that we get turn out to be wrong, and they get revised later. All right. Putting that aside, I mentioned this first thing this morning right out of the gate, and I'm going to go back into it again because I think it is important enough to mention. So while watching, I'm going to get to the Olympics and the incident that happened yesterday with female boxing. When I first saw this popping up, I thought somebody was writing sort of a funny satirical meme to make a point. But then it kept popping up even on news sites, and I began to realize, it's not, this is real. This happened. So, so far, anywhere I look in the Olympics, there haven't been any transgendered athletes. But in boxing, apparently, female boxing, there's a biological male who's competing against the biological females there, right? Okay. And this match lasts about 46 seconds, and this woman taps out, falls to her knees in tears, saying, "This is unjust. I have never been hit so hard in my life." Now, the only example I thought of at the time was, earlier I had been watching an event that I didn't know was an Olympic event until this Olympics, which is BMX bike racing. And for those who don't know, these are short little dirt bikes that are pedaled, okay? And the people who ride them, oh my Lord, what they can do. So the track that they put out is made, there's no dirt on it, anything like that. It's an artificial track. And it's got all sorts of ways that people can use the track to go up, way up and down side walls and things in the middle and do jumps and flips. And the things they can get, oh, dear Lord, it's amazing to watch these people. So the first round was the ladies' BMX bike. And the ladies, they have to do a 60-second routine. Well, within 60 seconds, before the 60 seconds is up, I watched one lady after the next start to wear down. They started pedaling slower. They couldn't jump as high, and they all made it to the end, but they all were just exhausted, and you can see them wearing down. What they did was impressive. I would have never, even in my younger days, been able to do what those ladies were doing. It was really impressive. Then came the men's BMX. Wow, the power that I saw. I mean, these guys got up to incredible speeds on these little bikes and launched them high into the air, all over these different things that would help them do jumps. They would launch themselves way into the air. It was just, a couple of times I just gasped at, oh my God, did you really just go that high? And they would start to flip and twist and turn themselves and the bikes at the same time, do all sorts of amazing tricks, and then land perfectly. And I'm watching these guys as they make it through the entire 60 seconds. They're still huffing and puffing, but they don't wear down like the ladies were. They made it all the way to the end, reaching heights and doing tricks the ladies could never achieve. So after this boxing match yesterday, I started thinking, imagine if one of those male BMX bikers had said, I identify as female, and then went over to compete with the ladies. He would have swept the event. There would have been no contest whatsoever. It wouldn't be fair. But then after I thought about that, I thought, why listen to me? Forget everything I just said. That's my opinion, but forget everything I just said. Let's go back. 1976. Bruce Jenner in the decathlon. Not only does he win every event in the decathlon, every event, but he breaks some records too. So when he got done, he was known worldwide. He became world famous because of sweeping the decathlons and the records he broke in 1976. Now today, Bruce Jenner says, call me Caitlin. Okay, and now he's going through all of the, I don't know how far along he is on the process, but now transgendered. So a little while ago, Bruce Jenner was actually going to, I think one of them was Pennsylvania, but going to several states and arguing against allowing biological males in high school sports to compete against biological females. And he got a couple of governors to change their minds about allowing biological males to compete against biological females. He's been outspoken against it. So I thought, don't listen to me. If there's anybody who knows this issue, it would be Jenner. Having been a athlete in 1976 that swept the decathlon, transgender now today, what does Jenner have to say?
Become one of the thorniest debates in society today. Should trans women athletes be allowed to compete in women's sport? Well, who better to talk to, frankly? An Olympic gold medalist as a male athlete, and arguably the most famous trans one in the world now, Caitlyn Jenner.
I have said from the beginning, and I stand with it, that I don't want biological boys to compete against women and girls in sports. It's just not fair. Now, obviously, over the last 6 months especially, because of Leah Thomas at the University of Pennsylvania, but she dominated. She had gone through male puberty. Her lungs are bigger, her back's bigger, her hands are bigger. She just has a tremendous advantage in swimming in the pool against the women, and she proved that. So I don't have a problem with her. I have a problem with the NCAA. We have to change the rules. We have to do a better job, because the bottom line is we have to keep it fair. And I don't want to ruin women's sports or discourage women from getting into sports because they think, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to compete against a bunch of guys.
So that's why I say don't look at, I'm not an expert. I gave you my opinion, but I'm not an expert. I would call that person an expert. It's true what's being said. Biological males, bigger hearts, bigger lungs, bone density and muscle density is much more than in a female. With that in mind, then, who has the advantage? So you see your answer to that.
This one's for the people who have ever felt the pain of stepping on a Lego. I know it hurts. This one's for the people who have ever felt the pain of losing $1 to a broken vending machine. It's sad. This one's for the people who's allergic to dogs. That must be rough. Get it? Rough. It's gonna be okay.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
Take Glenn anywhere with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
8:21 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't started already, you're supposed to be in utter panic mode.
Global warming! Here comes global warming! We did it, Vision! Oh, come on, hurry! It's right behind us! It's coming the other way! Community center, hurry, go! Get inside, we have to close these doors!
Yeah, that's it. Global warming is coming, and Lord knows any time now it's all going to be over for all of us. So here's some of the latest. Maryland County's electric school bus program resulted in millions of dollars in wasteful spending. Don't forget now, your Vice President, Harris, was put in charge of literally billions of dollars to get electric buses in schools all over America, and they built about 60 buses. Last I heard, 8 were delivered. We were supposed to have billions of dollars spent to make an electric grid to charge electric cars, and last I heard we had like 7 or 8 charging stations after billions spent. Okay, so here's the latest. An investigation into Maryland school system's electric bus initiative found that it resulted in millions of dollars of wasteful spending due to issues with the vehicles, according to a report from the county sheriff's inspector general. Oh, this reminds me, before I read on here, remember Jackson Hole, Wyoming had purchased a bunch of electric buses so they could have what they thought were emissions-free buses, even though those buses charged by coal power plants that were nearby. But those so-called emission-free buses turned out to be just a complete waste of money. So in February 2021, Montgomery County Public Schools in Maryland announced it was replacing 326 diesel school buses with electric buses as part of a, here we go, there's that word again, sustainability initiative. Due to delayed deliveries, frequent mechanical issues with the electric buses, the county has had to resort to their diesel buses again. Roughly $170 million paid for the new fleet, and they can't use it. All of the buses received during the fiscal year 2022 to 2024 were delivered beyond the contractually required delivery date. As a result, the school system spent over $14 million to acquire diesel buses to compensate for not receiving the anticipated electric school. Why would you get rid of your diesel buses before you get the electric buses? Then they have to go back and get diesel buses. In addition to the delays, many of the electric buses have been inoperable for extended periods, with inspector generals estimating that they should have assessed the electric bus contract appropriately, I should say, for failing to, and then fine them for not providing services. So the financial manual defines waste as the extravagant, careless, or needless expenditure of taxpayer money. The report reads, failures to hold the contractors accountable to terms of their contract and their decisions not to include a provision to offset incurred expenses as millions of dollars of wasteful spending. So the now former superintendent originally claimed the electric school buses would save the county money. Now, this has cost them tens of millions of dollars in this boondoggle. And we're going to be saving upwards of 6,500 gallons of diesel fuel per day, they said, during a press conference back in 2022. Immediately, this is going to cut costs by about 50%. See, once again, here's all of these ideas they have. Look at all the wonderful things it's going to do, and none of that happens. Results for electric buses cross-country have been plagued with issues, including reports of vehicles bursting into flames due to battery malfunctions. That happened in Wichita, Kansas, Philadelphia. And if you wonder why I call it Philadelphia, go there. Hamden, Connecticut. Additionally, 8 electric bus purchases by Democrat enclaves in Wyoming. There you go. Became indefinitely inoperable by 2023. That's the one Jackson Hole they're mentioning in this story. Despite the issues, Biden administration has continued to push for electric buses. I don't know why. And electric vehicle mandates. handing out or announcing plans for tens of billions of dollars to every single state and territory to get us into electric vehicles. In May, Biden administration announced it was handing out an additional $900 million to pay for green school buses in a bid to lower carbon emissions. And how's that working for them so far? Right. It hasn't been at all. But hang on, not done here. I got more on the EV mandates. Bert in Cheyenne. Hello, Bert. Hi, Glenn. You are too quick. I was going to mention the Yellowstone buses. Yeah, it was not just the Yellowstone buses, but also just in Teton County. So there were a couple of them. There were the buses in Yellowstone that were a problem, but also in Jackson Hole, they wanted some electric buses to take tourists around downtown area and so on, that they wanted, again, to be zero emissions. And those also failed. So, well, this is just going great. But rather than recognizing, hey, we have a problem here, let's put the pun intended, let's put the brakes on this and figure out what's going wrong. Instead, no, we just got to dump more money into this. Now, if it were a private business only has so much money, and they know this isn't working, we got to stop what we're doing here. Which is why even some companies like Ford, to name one, BMW is another, but some other automakers have scaled way back on making electric vehicles if they're continuing to make them at all because of all the problems they've been having. So private enterprise, at some point, if it just gets stupid like this, they've got to stop. Government doesn't. When something is failing in government just spends more money. Yeah, they just keep on spending more money. The dumber it gets, the more money they spend. And we're already $35 trillion in debt, but when you add up everything, it's way over even that. But we're just going to keep on dumping money into this? This has got to stop. But I got more on it. So I'll go ahead and get through this next news and information break, and we'll continue on with it. So local news is coming your way. After local news, update on your weather forecast, and then a little bit more of this and some other stories for you. Again, don't have the phones right now, but you can go ahead and text me like Bert and Cheyenne just did. Wake Up Wyoming app is free to download at your app store, and one of the options on it is look for that chat option across the toolbar in the middle. Hit chat, and you can send me a text message while I'm on the air, and I can answer back that way. So Wake Up Wyoming.
Download the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Listen anywhere and chat live with Glenn during the show on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
I'm so happy to be here. Yeah. I'm just happy to be here. Still I know the world's on fire. The situation's dire. A lot of work and courage gonna be required, but I'm just happy to be here.
So if you're just joining me, I just got from reading a whole story about another state. What was I saying, folks? Wisconsin, I think it was. They ordered a school district had ordered a whole bunch of electric school buses because it was going to save them a ton of money. And none of the buses have worked. There's been all sorts of problems. They were even delivered late. Then they had just tons of problems. And they had to bring back the old diesel buses at great expense. It's cost them, I mean, they don't have the money, tens of millions of dollars in that district. And I did mention that not just Yellowstone Park tried with electric buses, it has not worked out, but Jackson Hole, same thing. Ended up being a huge boondoggle. So some of the notes, let me see. Michelle and Cheyenne, why not go back to the original Stanley steamers? Those worked well. Why not? WL in Crowheart, Wyoming is accepting federal money to replace diesel school buses. I have heard about that. And I really don't know who's getting them yet. I've heard something about that, but not a good idea. It's been discussed in various towns around Wyoming, but as far as I know, nothing has actually happened yet. Especially because here in Wyoming, especially when we get really cold like that in the wintertime, it just is not a good idea. Better to have your diesel bus. Okay, Bert and Cheyenne, even Tesla has received over $2 billion in federal grants and loans. And you see, this is part of what really gets me about this, is all of the money in grants and loans that they don't have. Is it a loan that they don't have to pay back? Yeah. So the automotive industry as a whole, if they're making the internal combustion engine, they're not getting subsidies. That's why so many auto manufacturers started making electric vehicles, because government came along and started handing them billions of dollars. Hey, who's going to turn that down? If you were running a company and government showed up with a product that you knew would be a dud, but they were going to give you billions of dollars to produce it anyway, what would you do as a company? Yeah, you would accept the billions of dollars. That's what's going on. All right, so moving on with the story here then. This is titled Future of the EV Mandate. Just a few months after taking office, story says, President Joe Biden issued an executive order, which he's not allowed to do, by the way, setting a national goal for zero-emission vehicles to comprise 50% of all new cars and trucks sold by 2030. Now, they are anywhere near close to achieving that, just so you know. Then in March of 2024, Biden administration finalized a new tailpipe rule for passenger cars and trucks. Now, again, all this needs to be challenged in court, or if Trump ends up in the White House, just get rid of it. But really, Congress needs to get rid of it. There's so many ways to attack this. Curiously, the story says, while the new rule is intended to push the auto market toward electric vehicles, or even hybrids, the EPA backed off from its initial plan to ensure 2/3 of all vehicles sold by 2030 were electric. The rule favors plug-in hybrids as part of the mix. If anything, Vice President Harris, perhaps because of her California roots, is even more zealous than Biden on electric vehicles in the whole resolution, despite the fact that more than 42 billion fast-charging initiatives she was in charge of has to date produced only 9 charging stations. I was wondering earlier, I said 6 or 7, 9 charging stations, which I would love to have some investigation as to where did that money go. 42 billion spent, and we have 9 stations. This is part of also why I say, look, just let the market do it organically. When we have gas stations popping up all over the place, it's not because government is subsidizing it. It's because the marketplace demanded it, and people saw a way to make money. That's just capitalism. Meanwhile, the European Commission a year earlier had agreed to carve out an exemption for its electric vehicle mandate, only to allow the continued sale of vehicles that run on e-fuels, fuels made up by capturing carbon dioxide emissions. While former President Donald Trump has vowed to end the Biden mandates and likely push to roll back the EPA tailpipe rules as he's done before, automakers on multiple continents are fast proving that government regulations all too often locks in yesterday's technology. Perhaps inspired by realities, the 125-year-old electric vehicle technology, while much updated since the early days, has even today been unable to resolve nagging problems in automotive engineering on 4 continents that are designed by companies and are manufacturing vehicles that may soon turn the battery electric vehicle into a 21st century Etzel. If you remember or know about the story of the Etzel. All right. Many of the new engine designs will generate zero carbon emissions at the source, by the way. None of these vehicles meet the EU's definition and appears to fall outside the Biden administration's plan for wholly keyed electric vehicles. In an effort to salvage the Biden administration's plan last month, the Department of Energy announced $1.7 billion. They don't have the money for this, by the way, in new potential grants, mostly General Motors, to convert existing plants 8 mostly swing state manufacturing electric vehicle companies. The program would not be finalized until after the elections to see what happened. Now, here again, if you're a company involved in this and you just make automobiles and government comes along and says, we'll give you $2 billion, you going to take it? They're just going to give you $2 billion. Who cares if it works? Ford, which has racked up staggering losses in electric vehicles, 50,000 for each one sold. Just imagine that. Just announced it will spend $3 billion to expand production capacity in Oakville, Canada, facility for its profitable gas line-powered heavy-duty F-Series pickup trucks. Ford earlier postponed $12 billion in electric vehicle factory building. So they're postponing factory building and ramping up those big pickup trucks because that's what sells. Meanwhile, the world's largest automaker announced it's just investing $6 billion in South America. This is Stellantis, I think they're called. $6 billion in South America's market to build a generation of motors capable of running on either gasoline or ethanol. The flex fuel combustion engine will be able to switch between fuels. They can also be combined with plug-in hybrid technology if the owner of the car wants to do that. So the new bio-hybrid is what they're calling it here. They're going to try to go for that. Wisconsin-based engines, years ago, this is Kohler engines, unveiled what they call a zero-carbon emission hydrogen internal combustion engine, which can use hydrogen sources. Now, again, I don't mind if I've been watching the advancement in hydrogen cars for many years and have thought, if they could solve some problems here, they'd really have something. It'd really be cool to have it. And there's 2 ways to do it. There's a hydrogen internal combustion engine, and there's a hydrogen electric, which is essentially an electric car, but it gets its electricity off of a hydrogen solution instead. But if they could solve these problems, wow, that'd really be something. But they've had a lot of big hurdles to overcome that they haven't in many years. In the meantime, here come government subsidies toward that. Once again, government is trying to subsidize everything. And as I said, God knows how many times before, you cannot create an artificial economy. If it works, it's because it worked organically. Not because government is shoving billions of dollars that it doesn't have, by the way, to try to get us to do something that we don't really want to do. Coming up in 8:46, Wake Up Wyoming.
Got something to say? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat with Glenn on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app from K2 Radio.
8:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Often go to the icebox where Frank Gambino is waiting by. So, Frank, when you get here on Monday, there's going to be an ice cream birthday cake from Molly.
Oh, who's Molly?
Yeah. Now, here's why. A friend of mine owns a restaurant down in Cheyenne, and sometimes when she's sending messages on Facebook Messenger, she accidentally sends it to the wrong person. Okay, so here's what I got. This morning, Molly's birthday was Sunday. The baker forgot her cake. She sold us an inedible freezer burnt one. I hired another baker, but she went into rehab. Can you grab an ice cream cake on the way to work today? Poor Molly's had, basically her birthday sucks, so happy 24th, Molly. So I wrote, you sent this to the wrong person, and my friend wrote back, so no wonder that's why I didn't get a cake. Yeah. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do.
Send her a cake?
This weekend. No. See, I was asked to get Molly a cake. That's what I see.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go all the way down to Cheyenne with a cake. It'll melt by then. So when you come in Monday, you'll open up the freezer, if you would please, and see a ice cream birthday cake that says Happy Birthday, Molly.
Okay.
I would like you to cut yourself a slice and enjoy it.
We are going to celebrate Molly's birthday.
Everybody in the building. The only thing I ask in return is take a picture of yourself eating the cake. For Molly.
For Molly.
We're all celebrating Molly's birthday up here. You see? Now, there's nothing in there that I have to deliver the cake or that, I can't go all the way down. So obviously we have to take care of it, right?
Okay. But Glenn.
Yes.
Who's Molly?
I have no idea. Does it matter?
Well, for free cake? No, I don't care.
I didn't think you would mind at all.
No. We just like to know. All right, in the American Legion baseball circuit, the state AA tournament does conclude today at Lansing Field with the championship game, or games at this point. The Cheyenne Sixers, the defending champions, will take on the Gillette Rough Riders at 11 this morning. Since the Sixers have not lost a game in the tournament, all they have to do is win one of two today. And if they win the first game against Gillette, they're in as the state champions, and they'll move on to that Northwest Regional in Billings, Montana. If Gillette should happen to win the 11 o'clock game, then the if necessary game will be at 1:30. Yesterday, the Sixers eliminated the Cheyenne Hawks 10-2 thanks to 5 runs in the 5th inning, and Gillette eliminated Laramie 13-1 with 4 runs in the 3rd and 7 more in the 6th. In collegiate baseball, the Casper Spuds lost to the Fremont Moo 9-8 in 11 innings yesterday in Nebraska in Game 2 of that championship series for the Independence League, so the series is now even at 1 game apiece. The Spuds blew a 5-run lead in that game, and those two teams will play again tonight at Lansing Field at 7 p.m. And Game 3 of the series, Game 4 of the series, will be on Saturday. The Colorado Rockies will be at San Diego tonight at the Major League level, and they're 40-70 after a 5-4 win over the LA Angels yesterday in 10 innings. Jake Cave hit a 2-run homer in the 9th for the Rocks, and then Colorado went ahead in the 10th on an error. The Rockies did take 2 out of 3 from the Angels. At the Paris Summer Olympics, Simone Biles, the gymnast extraordinaire, won the Olympic gold medal in the all-around for the second time in her career. It's amazing. She had missed the Tokyo Games, but she won this in Rio, and she's just a phenomenal athlete. Absolutely phenomenal. In swimming, Katie Ledecky won her 13th medal in her career. 13. That is the most for U.S. women athletes in any event. And she took the silver medal in the 4x200 relay. In the Olympic track and field, Sha'Carri Richardson ran a 10.94 in the 100-meter prelims for the U.S. She missed the Tokyo Olympics. She tested positive for THC, so she finally made her Olympic debut yesterday. That's in sports.
Well, Americans are just cleaning up.
They're winning the medal thing. They have 39.
Wow.
9 gold, 16 silver, and 14 bronze. They're kicking it.
Okay. And I'm glad when an American wins because I can't pronounce those other names.
No, neither can I. You actually have to watch and say, well, what was that?
What was that? Could you please pronounce that again slowly? Don't ask me to look at the spelling because I can't.
It's okay. I think the Olympics are a blast. I went to the 2002 Olympics in Salt Lake. I was there for a month.
Wow.
And you see people from all over the world and different cultures, and it's amazing what unites them. You know what unites them?
Yeah.
Beer.
There you go. Well, I would say this, though. In watching this Olympics, there's people from all over the world. They're all athletes.
Yeah.
And so they're all friendly to each other.
Right.
And I've watched great sportsmanship. Somebody loses, but they're over there hugging and shaking hands and all this good stuff here. It's really great sportsmanship that I'm seeing. I like seeing that.
Yeah, 99% of the time, yep.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National, local, update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it again for the 9 o'clock hour. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Six of the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. It's a Friday. Glad you made it.
Today's show is sponsored by Horseshoe Doorstops, made from real horses.
I still don't know what to do with that one. It's got to be probably, out of all of the great sponsors we have, probably the worst one. But hey.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave. Just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Okay, so I'm getting more news. Just a side note here. A lot more news about how Wall Street right now is in panic selling and the market is dropping because, once again, unemployment numbers came in. There's what the experts said was going to happen with the unemployment numbers, and then there's what happened. And it's not that hiring didn't happen. People were hired, but less than was forecasted. Therefore, it's panic on Wall Street. Wall Street never learns the lesson. Don't listen to the experts. And even then, in a few months, those numbers are going to be revised. So we don't actually know what the real numbers are because they'll be revised in a few months. And that's economics for you. That's how it works today, I guess. All right, so something happened during the course of this week, which I was really interested in knowing exactly how it was done. As you know, Israel killed one of the top leaders of Hamas. And the guy was living in Tehran, which is, that's a capital city of Iran. How do you hit a guy there? But they did it. Originally, I heard this was a missile attack, but I thought, well, okay, if they know the address, that's possible. But I really want to know, how exactly did they do this? Well, the story came out a little bit faster than I expected it to. Story says top leader of Hamas was assassinated Wednesday by an explosive device. So, okay, when I heard at first it was a missile, again, I thought ground-based, probably an air-based missile. What kind of, somebody walked up with a shoulder-launched missile? What kind of missile are we talking here? No, that's not what happened. An explosive device covertly smuggled into Tehran, Iran, into the guest house where this guy was staying. The bomb had been hidden approximately 2 months ago in the guest house, according to 5 Middle Eastern officials. The guest house is run and protected by Iran's Revolutionary Guard and is part of a large compound in an upscale neighborhood. So this terrorist leader was in Iran's capital for the presidential inauguration. So they knew he was going to be there for the presidential inauguration. So the bomb was detonated remotely. They know he's going to be in town. They know where he's going to be staying exactly. So they just got to get someone who can smuggle a bomb in and place it. And then once the guy is in there, somebody nearby can remotely detonate it, and who knows who that person is and where. The explosion shook the building, shattered some windows, caused partial collapse of the exterior wall. According to Iranian officials, members of the Revolutionary Guard briefed on the incident. Such damage was also evident in a photograph. Talks about that. Okay. And then it talks about who this guy was. I thought that was pretty impressive. Now, some years ago, quite a few years ago, a couple of presidents ago, Israel did something which I also thought was remarkable. This is when Iran was building a nuclear reactor. Well, they were trying to, it was a site where they were trying to, they were mining for the uranium. And then they were trying to refine it, so there was something they could use. They said for the nuclear reactor, but of course people worry about a nuclear bomb. And Israel doesn't, of course, want them doing this. But what do they do about it? They could bomb the facility. That's one possibility. There's big international incidents with something like that, though. They want to do something different. And so they invented a virus that would get into the entire computer system of the facility where they're refining the uranium and the nuclear facility and just shut it down. Just fry all the computers with a virus. Next problem, though, is how do you get that virus in there? Because none of what I just described as far as computers is connected to the Internet. The Iranians were smart enough to make it a freestanding system, not at all in any way connected to the Internet. So here's what the Israelis did. Imagine you're walking to work. You work in an office somewhere. You're just a lower-level employee. Nobody of importance. You're just a lower-level employee, and you work in an office. And one day, while arriving at your office, you see that somebody on a bench has left a thumb drive. Whoops, someone forgot their thumb drive. Oh, gosh. So you would probably pick it up, right? And once you got inside, you'd be curious as to what's on the thumb drive. Do you know who it belongs to? Can you return it to them? Or maybe you're just curious about what's on it. So you plug it into your computer at your desk. This is what the Israelis did. They took a thumb drive and they just put it out on a bench on the walkway that leads right into the building. And sure enough, some employee walking to work picked it up and walked inside wonder who this belongs to. Maybe I can get it back to them if I can find out whose this is. Set that at their desk, plugged it into their computer. Now the virus is in the system. Doesn't need to be connected to the internet. And it shut everything down. I tell you, when it comes to plotting things like this, Israelis are just the best at it. Absolutely the best. I.D. John over in Granite County. Morning, Glenn. They also revised down the previous 2 months' job numbers. Oh, John, they do that every single time. Every time they come out with jobs numbers, as the months go by, they always revise it. And it up or down, whatever the case is. But yeah, you're right, revised down. Many of the numbers from the first of the year that looked really great have been revised down considerably. So whenever they report jobs numbers, whatever the initial reports are, I don't listen to it. I mean, it's amusing to me to watch the reaction to it, especially on Wall Street and in the news media. But it's a joke because the numbers get revised later on to what they really should be. Okay, so you're watching Panic on Wall Street right now, and as John is saying, they revised the numbers down for the economy, which means even though things have been slowly recovering, nowhere near as nicely as you've been told, because they only report the numbers, the media does, as they first come out. They very rarely mention, if they do mention revisions, it's mentioned someplace that most people, if we were still reading newspapers today, it would be way on the back page somewhere buried, where most people will never get to it. But those are jobs numbers for you.
Do I point out that it's not cow? Like, hamburger is a pig. Everyone knows ham comes from pig.
Holy Moses on a rocket-powered pogo stick. Bless her heart. Wait till she finds out about buffalo wings. It's going to absolutely blow her down.
He's not a politician, but his pants are on fire. Could someone grab an extinguisher? Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
9:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So like I said, people can text me while I'm on air by using the Wake Up Wyoming app. Just go ahead and hit the chat button. 99-2B in Burns sends me this note. Let me set it up so everybody knows what I'm talking about. Earlier this week, I thought I have a great idea for a restaurant chain, and I'm going to write a satirical bit about it, and you guys helped a lot by offering all sorts of suggestions. Now, I haven't had a chance I wrote part of a script, but I got to go back and revise a lot of things based on your suggestions. It won't be done this week because we have Bear Trap Music Festival in Casper, Wyoming, which I'll be at both days, and I hope to see you there. But I have to wait until next week to write and then produce the bit. Here's the restaurant chain. Imagine a restaurant. Every time you drive by a wind farm, there's a restaurant in the middle of the farm somewhere. Now, what they serve is all of the birds and bats that are killed by wind turbines. So you're going to have to wait. When you sit down to order, you're going to have to wait to see what literally falls out of the sky. And it might, if you're lucky, it might be a rare bird, an endangered bird like a golden eagle. Now, if you went out and killed a golden eagle yourself with a gun and then cook it and ate it, you're in big trouble. That's an endangered bird. But if a wind turbine kills it, we're okay. They're allowed to. Literally, they're allowed to. So whatever falls out of the sky dead is what they're going to cook for you, providing, of course, that the wind continues to blow. Because if the wind stops blowing, then they don't have the electricity. First off, they're not killing anything fresh for you. And then they don't have the electricity to run the grills to cook the bird up. There was one suggestion, use the deep fryer because you can use that to run a diesel generator when the wind's not blowing. Someone else suggested go ahead and have diesel generators making wind with fans to turn the wind turbines so you can go ahead and cook the food. I don't know. We'll figure that out as it goes. Now, so 992B in Burns says, hey, let's hurry this wind farm restaurant up so that IED John and I have somewhere to eat out here in Granite Canyon. Here's a thought that I shot back at him. What if we did this? Can you imagine every time there's a coal power plant, we open up a restaurant right there? Now, let's go up to, there's plenty of places we can look at where there's coal power plants. Wheatland, you guys have a plant. Over in Glen Rock, Gillette, to name a few places. There's quite a few other places around Wyoming that have coal plants. And usually when I see a coal plant in Wyoming, there's a lot of open land around it because the land is not being disturbed by putting up acres and acres and acres and many, many miles of wind and solar. A coal plant's in a very small footprint by comparison. So around the coal plant, there's cattle ranches. And I thought, what a great idea. So you open up a restaurant that runs off of the coal power plant, and everything is cooked on coal. So would you like some beef? It's right out there in the field. They'll go get one for you. And they'll cook it up on coal right there at the power plant. Huh? Yeah. So not only is the coal making electricity, but it's also cooking your food all at the same time. And unlike the wind farm, you can go ahead and eat anytime you want. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, these restaurants can be open because there's always power and there's always plenty of coal to keep cooking all your food. So, and unlike the wind turbines, you don't have to wait until a wind turbine knocks a bird out of the sky and then wonder what kind of bird you're going to eat. You can just sit there at the restaurant and go, I want that one over there. And it doesn't just have to be cattle. A lot of times there's sheep out there. There's farms out there that have chickens. So, I mean, there's chicken. You can have chicken if you want. You have eggs, bacon. Hey, I've seen hogs around, there's all sorts of farming and ranching going around these coal power plants. So those would be the successful restaurants. The only way that the restaurants under the wind turbines would continue to stay in business, since the power is intermittent, especially, is by heavy government subsidies. And once the subsidies run out, and they are going to run out, once the subsidies run out, the whole place shuts down. So you see the problem that they're going to have. All right. Couple of other items I had, but I do a little bit of house cleaning for you here. Biden administration gives up on Texas border lawsuit to finish the wall. I have two stories on this related topic. Texas has won another lawsuit against the Biden administration, this time one that requires it to finish building the border wall. The ruling was issued May 29th with a 60-day window for appeal because the Biden administration didn't appeal July 29th. The court order remains in effect. The ruling orders to consolidate lawsuits filed by the Texas General Law Office under the former commissioner, and it talks about who, first name, the departments, and so on. The lawsuit argues that the president and Mayorkas violated federal law and asked a court to instruct them to follow the law and use funds appropriate for Congress and for their intended purpose, meaning build a wall. Congress allocated roughly $1.4 billion to fund the construction of a barrier system along the southwest border. On his first day in office, President Biden ordered the construction to be halted because contractors had already been, it cost taxpayers about $6 million, then $3 million a day for the border wall materials and stuff like that. But okay, Biden said stop building the wall. October 2021, Missouri and Texas sued the president and Mayorkas, requesting the court order them to complete the construction because it is law. The House and Senate wrote the law and allocated the money, and the president at the time, Trump, signed it into law. So when the new Congress and new administration comes in, they didn't change that. They didn't repeal the law. It's still a law, so it has to be done. In response to the lawsuit, Mayorkas, as he has done in nearly every lawsuit filed against, argued he has discretion to change or implement policies as he sees fit, which he doesn't, but okay. And the judge says, no, you don't. The cases were consolidated and progressed. Mayorkas reallocated border funding to focus on environmental projects. Yeah, border funding went to environmental issues. And that's where the court says, no, go build that wall. So this is where we're at right now. Once again, the Biden administration has yet again lost. And the courts once again are saying, go build that wall. And the Biden administration has not filed any further appeals. They're done. That doesn't mean there's going to, I don't think they're going to suddenly get busy building a wall. I mean, we're getting close to election time here. They're just done. So I don't think they're going to make any move whatsoever, even though the court is ordering them to do so. And say, I also have Biden administration freezes controversial migration. Oh, you're going to, okay, I'm going to read you this next story about the migration program. You're not going to like this. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. And a weather forecast for the weekend. A bit on the warm side, but actually not bad overall. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. On air, online, and on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS. This is K2 Radio.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, so one more for you on the immigration front. Headline, which you're going to hate the headline, I know, but Biden administration freezes controversial, it says migrant, illegal immigrant, flight program after fraud revelations. Boy, someone was being defrauded. Wow. The Biden administration has put a controversial program that allows tens of thousands of migrants from 4 nations to travel directly to the U.S. on hold after a report circulated internally showing significant amounts of fraud in the program. The Department of Homeland Security confirmed, out of abundance of caution, it has paused the ensuing advance of travel authorizations, allowing up to 30,000 nationals from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela to travel to the U.S. each month, 30,000 each month, and enter legally, they say, under the administration's use of a parole to meet certain conditions. By the way, that parole, they're supposed to get back. You can go ahead into the country. You're supposed to meet back with us in a couple of years or so. That's going to work well, right? A congressional source told Fox News Digital the pause came mid-July after an internal report unearthed large amounts of fraud in applications for those sponsoring the applications. Department of Homeland Security pause was occurring as it was revealed the sponsored applications reviewed detected previous fraud and abuse of the immigration process. Where fraud is identified, they will investigate, they said. Out of abundance of caution, temporary pause. The program was initially announced for Venezuela in October 2022 and allowed for a limited number of fly-in travel directly to the U.S. as long as they had not entered illegally, had a sponsor in the U.S., and had passed certain biometric and biographical vetting. The program does not in itself facilitate flights, and the migrants are responsible for their own travel. But apparently that's not all being adhered to. In January 2023, the administration announced that the program was expanding to include Haitians, Nicaraguans, Cubans, and the program would allow up to 30,000 people a month into the U.S. It allows for migrants to receive work permits and 2 years authorization and was announced alongside the expansion of Title 42 for those nationalities. Congressional source told Fox News the Customs and Border Protection stopped issuing traveling authorization to Venezuela on July 26. The internal report found that forms for those applying included Social Security number, addresses, phone numbers, and so on. This is, I think, a really important part. When they looked at it and found Social Security numbers, addresses, and phone numbers, they were used many times over and over and over again. So, in other words, I just got done filling out this application. Here, take my information, and you fill out the application with the same information. And parts of the report shared with Fox Digital by the Federation of American Immigration Reform, a conservative immigration group, showed that about 100,948 forms were filled out by 3,218 serial sponsors, those whose numbers appeared 20 or more times on a form, numbers, names, stuff like that. It was also found that 24, well, look, here's a Social Security number that works, just keep plugging it in, right? It was also found that 24 of the 1,000 most used numbers belonged to a dead person. Meanwhile, 100 physical addresses were used between 124 and 124 and 739 times, or 19,000 different forms. These addresses included storage units listed as addresses. Sponsor phone number was submitted over 2,000 times on some forms. There were 2,839 forms with non-existent sponsor zip codes. So it's a zip code that doesn't really exist at all. The report was created by the Fraud Detection and National Security Director to ensure quick response to fraud and immigration and so on. So everything is on temporary pause right now until they figure all of this out. Wow. So your federal government wanted to do this, helping a lot of these people are refugees and so on, but wanted to help these people in. $30,000 a month. Wow. And once again, your federal government can't seem to get anything done straight or right. And there's massive amounts of fraud and loads of waste of money while we're at it. How much money was wasted in all of this? But you wonder why I have trust issues. I oftentimes say to people who disagree with me on many different issues, I say to people, I don't expect you to agree with me on everything. But let's take a look at what's causing me trust issues. Can you understand why I have trust issues? If you don't agree with what I say, that's fine. Can you understand why I have massive trust issues? Now I think you can see why. And when it comes to the Biden administration lying about the border, by the way, and then problems like the one that I just named to you here, and the number of people that have been arrested at the border, but then just released into the country. So what was the point of arresting them in the first place? To go through the motions of it? And people come across the border and get arrested by whoever's patrolling that area at the time, handcuffed, brought to a holding center, and within just a very short period of time, hours in some cases, they're out. You're supposed to come back for a court case in 5 years or something like that. Holy cow. And you'll wonder why I have massive trust issues. So again, disagree with me if you want. But and so far I've yet to have anyone tell me that they don't understand why I have trust issues. 9:43, Wake Up Wyoming.
Wake Up Wyoming. Glenn Woods is live on AM 1030 K2 Radio and the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
9:48 is the time. Off to the icebox we go. Frank Gambino waiting by. So Frank got bear trapped this weekend?
Yes, I think aren't you supposed to be the opening act for one of these?
Yes, I am. I tap dance.
And Glenn Woods and his dancing bears.
That's exactly right. In fact, I got a bunch of grizzlies from Yellowstone and some tourists.
Yeah.
And we're going to watch them dance.
So speaking of which, I was up in Powell and there's a photographer that I know, Greg Wise, and he goes to Yellowstone a lot. It's only 80 miles and shoots grizzly bears, and he knows where they're at.
Yeah.
So one of them is named Raspberry, one of them is named Snow, and one of them is named Jam.
Okay.
And I think raspberry and snow is raspberry's kid.
Right.
And then I think jam is snow's kid.
Okay.
Does that make any cub? Yeah, cub, yeah.
Yeah.
But those are the kind of beers that you can bring.
Yes.
And bring them on stage
I'll
with you.
call your friend, and I bet you your friend has a very long telephoto lens.
Yeah.
To stay very far
yeah.
away.
He's big time.
And what do they have you doing at Bear Trap this year?
I'm going to be the Minister of Public Relations.
Oh, okay, that's very good. Boy, what a huge mistake that was. Okay, well.
No. I've been doing it for years. I say, where are the bathrooms at over there?
Yeah, okay,
where's the
that
stage
way.
at?
Where's
the food over there? Where's the beer?
Yeah. If Frank is a little grumpy, he hasn't had enough beers yet, buy him one.
No, I'm not going to have any until everyone leaves.
Okay, that's good. Okay, now, I did take a look at, everybody, a lot of people show up for all of the great acts. Of course, but I like the food vendors.
Yeah, the food trucks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fun foods, that's where you get your funnel cakes, your Indian tacos, your lemonade, and your corn dogs.
Yep, and they used to have a kettle corn place, too.
I think so, yeah, okay.
But they stir it with a big, oar.
Yes.
Like from a canoe.
That's always fun, yeah. Oh, Gruner Brothers, that's just great craft beer and foods.
Yes.
Okay, so there's your beer. Northern Ice, which is you get all sorts of treats to cool down. So you'll enjoy that.
Like snow cones?
Stuff like that, yeah. That's exactly what they do, yeah. Occasions by Corey. Usually they do fine catering for like weddings and stuff like that, but they have all sorts of foods that are just perfect for outdoor events like this. Now, for the coffee fanatics, Blessed Bean, and that's not just a hot cup of coffee. See, it's going to be hot out. Did you want an iced coffee? Do you want a Frappa Loca Mocha Choco Latte or whatever the heck you call all those things over there? They've got all of that over there. And then, now, I've already picked out where I'm going for lunch. Wyo Philly is going to be there.
Yep. They're the Philly cheesesteaks.
Oh, my Lord. Now, they do more than just Philly cheesesteaks, but I would say do the Philly cheesesteak. I mean, they're just absolutely incredible. So other people are going to be watching the music. I'm going to be hanging out by the food vendors watching them.
All right, well, that'll work. American Legion Baseball, the state AA tournament moves along today and concludes today at Lansing Field in Casper. In yesterday's action, it was the Cheyenne Sixers over the Cheyenne Hawks 10-2. So the Sixers scored 5 runs in the 5th inning, and they will advance to this morning's championship game against the Gillette Rough Riders. And Gillette beat Laramie yesterday 13-1. Gillette with 4 runs in the 3rd and 7 more in the 6th. Now, Gillette and Cheyenne at 11 this morning over at Lansing Field. If Cheyenne wins that first game, they will be the state champions and will advance to the Northwest Regional. They'll be in Billings. If Gillette wins that game, then they'll have an if necessary game, a winner-take-all kind of a deal at 1:30 this afternoon at Lansing Field. In collegiate baseball, the Casper Spuds will be at Lansing Field tonight at 7 o'clock, and they will host the Fremont Moo in Game 3 of the Independence League Championship Series. That series is even a 1 game apiece as the Moo beat the Spuds yesterday in Nebraska in 11 innings, 9-8, and the Spuds blew a 5-run lead in that deal. Major League Baseball, the Colorado Rockies will be at San Diego tonight. The Rockies are 40-70, which is awful, but they beat the Angels, the LA Angels last night 5-4 in 10 innings. Jake Cave with a 2-run homer in the 9th, and the Rockies scored their go-ahead run on an error in the 10th inning. At the Summer Olympics in Paris, the United States men's soccer team lost to Morocco 4-0. So the U.S. men are out. Simone Biles in gymnastics, what a stud. 2-time Olympic champion in the individual all-around. First, she won it in Rio, then in Paris, and remember, she skipped the Tokyo finals due to a case of the twisties. So she was absolutely phenomenal in all those gymnastics events and all those rotations. And in women's swimming, Katie Ledecky won a silver medal in the 4x200 relay. She's won 13 Olympic medals in her career, most of any women's Olympic swimmer. She was incredible, too. It was just her and everyone else. Basically, she won that 1,500 free by a long shot and then was on that silver medal winning relay. So the Olympics continue today. What was going to be I wanted to watch today? Equestrian?
Yeah.
And,
something else, yeah. I'm going to watch the old people Olympics. In other words, getting out of the shower without falling on your face. Getting out of bed without falling on your face. Getting up off of the easy chair without falling on your face, right?
We don't want to see that.
Yeah, no one wants to see it. But if you don't fall on your face, you win a medal. Which, of course, as soon as we put that heavy metal around your neck, you're going to fall on your face.
I'm going to give him like a plastic medal or something.
Okay, see you this weekend, Frank. Thank you. And, yeah, everybody, I will be. A Bear Trap Music Festival happens every single year in Casper, Wyoming. This year, though, in Washington Park, not up in the mountain because construction on the mountain. But I hope to see you there. I'll be there both days. Wake Up Wyoming.